A Fox News alert. Former President Trump is likely to turn himself over to authorities as early as this coming Tuesday after being indicted by a New York grand jury.
Republicans are tearing into the unprecedented abuse of power, including House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, who says, quote, the American people will not tolerate this injustice. And the House of Representatives will hold Alvin Bragg and his unprecedented abuse of power to account. Former
Georgia Congressman who served on the House Judiciary Committee, Doug Collins, joins us now. Mr. Collins, thanks so much for being here. And look, we have covered almost every single angle of this Trump indictment this morning, except for the following one. Explain to us how Congress will hold Alvin Bragg accountable, the procedural steps by which they will do so.
In fairness, it's going to be very hard. Okay, this is they've already sent the letters wanting information. He's involved in a case, an investigation, which he'll say, look, I'm not going to talk about an ongoing investigation. I'm not going to talk about an ongoing case. So the reality is, I think it's going to be more, there's two parts to it. Will they actually get him in front of the committee? Probably not. But can they also continue to raise questions, continue to bring in other, discussions, witnesses, those kind of things? Yes, that's the way they can. And I think from a perspective of saying, we're not going to let this go. You've done something that is marginally, from a perspective of unprecedented. You're going after a former president. You've been chasing this sort of car for a long time. Now you've caught it. And now it's really on Alvin Bragg to prove it. But as far as coming from Congress itself, it'll be more of a publicity. It'll be more of a news media keeping the pressure on to say, Alvin Bragg, you did this. You're going to be held responsible for it.
You talk about Alvin Bragg having to prove it. Do you think he has enough to prove it?
It's up to him. I mean, he better. I mean, because you bring a case like this, and again, the prosecutor through the grand jury process, which the grand jury indicted, but Alvin Bragg brought before the grand jury. It's all his room. I mean, it's not a defendant's room; it's a prosecutor's room. So if he didn't get a true bill out of that and actually brought this indictment forward, then it's even actually more on him. So he's got his indictment now. It's now on him to prove it in court. So if he doesn't bring it, it will be a major story in the last years. And this is not going to play out very quickly. To be reminded, this is not going to all of a sudden he turns himself in Tuesday. We have a trial on Wednesday. This isn't law and order. This is going to take a long time to play out.
What do you make of the fact that the feds, Alvin Bragg himself, Cyrus Vance, Letitia James, the list goes on and on and on, all passed on this. And now Alvin Bragg trying to get another bite at the apple with the facts applying to the law as you know it.
As we know it, without seeing the indictments, when we see the indictments, we'll see if he's tried to add anything else in there. But what has been reported so far, I agree with both Democrats and Republicans. This is a weak case. I mean, it's like a zombie case. It's like one that just kept piling up. It's like, why is this case even coming forward? What it appears to most people, including myself and others, is this a political case. Alvin Bragg had said, oh, I'm going to get Donald Trump. I'm going to go after Donald Trump. I'm going to go after, well, this is the case. And he said, well, I'll try this one. I have trouble with the others. Okay, fine. I'll just do it. And in doing the old prosecutor, I'll just throw it out there, and if the jury likes it or not, but I did what I said I would do. I would go after Donald Trump.
You know, speaking of politics, former Speaker Nancy Pelosi tweeted, no one is above the law, and everyone has the right to a trial to prove innocence. But that statement has a problem. In the United States, you are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. You served with her. I mean, is this just typical Pelosi? What is that?
Oh, very typical Pelosi. I went after this last night online. This is exactly what I saw when I was a ranking member of the in Judiciary, having to go through impeachment and go through Mueller and everything else. They twisted the law to say, no, it's up to you to prove it. And I actually talked about this on the floor of the House. She said, look, you want to go around and say, I accuse you. Now prove you're innocent. That's not the American system. It should be taken down. That tweet should be removed. That tweet she should apologize. If she's that ignorant of constitutional law, then again, we show why that's a problem.
But combine that comment with what appears by all counts to be a political prosecution / persecution. And how concerned are you for the rule of law in the United States of America this morning?
I'm very concerned from a rule of law when you have leaders like Nancy Pelosi who have absolutely no concept of what the law is. I have a lot of concern when you have Democrats all over the country say, well, if he didn't do anything, let him prove himself innocent. That is just so, for someone who's worked in the criminal justice system, who actually worked for criminal justice reform, this is not where we got to go. And if you have people out there believing that you have to prove your innocence, then we've turned our jurisprudence on the top of its head. This is just, because what's scary to me is there are people in Democrats who believe Nancy Pelosi is right. They'll they'll look at that and believe that's the way the system works.
Well, and that's the problem. You bring up a perfect point. There are people that don't know really how the law works. They just take it at face value and they say, oh, okay, well, you have to prove that you're innocent in this country. Think about, we had Assemblyman Ron Kim on right before you.
Right.
He was talking about how he immigrated here. What about the immigrants who fled third world countries to come to America, and now we're seeing this?
Well, they see this, and also if you take this into the open border that we have currently now, you have people who came here, did it legally. They waited years to get here legally, and they're now turning around and saying, well, they're just walking across the border, and I did it legally. This is what I saw in my home country. This is where I saw a breakdown of the rule of law. How many times have you heard a Democrat talk about, well, in these Central American countries, there's gangs and lawlessness? Wait, hang on a second. You got to bring it back. So, yeah, it is a concern. And for a Democrat to honestly sit here and say that and agree that you got to prove your innocence shows maybe they shouldn't be in office.
Despite all the noise, the lawyers pontificating, everybody talking out of multiple sides of their mouth, doesn't this case all come down to one fact and one fact only? Was there a non-campaign reason to provide this payment in the first place?
Probably more than one, but yes, I mean, you got to figure out a connection between a misdemeanor offense and a felony, which, by the way, the federal side and the Department of Justice have passed on. If he doesn't have the connection there, if he doesn't show that it was somehow legal, it's not a case.
Yeah, and not only that, but the Democrats, like I mentioned, Ron Kim, he's saying that this could, if it is not played out the right way on Bragg's part, it could maybe cost them the election, the White House. So
yeah, we didn't even get to the political.
No, we have so much
Fox
to talk
and Friends
about.
is going to take it. Doug Collins, thank you. A very busy news morning.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.